The crystal champagne glass slipped from my hands, shattering against the marble floor of my in-laws' mansion. The room fell silent, all eyes turning to me, the clumsy waitress who didn't belong. That was a $500 crystal glass. My mother-in-law, Victoria, shrieked, her perfectly botoxed face contorting with rage. "This is exactly why we can't have your kind at our family gathering, Sarah." But my foolish son insisted on bringing his charity case wife. I bent down to carefully pick up the shards, my hands trembling slightly, not from fear or embarrassment, but from the effort of containing my laughter. If they only knew who was really cleaning their floors right now. "Leave it," Victoria snapped. "Heaven knows what diseases you might spread. Margaret, call the actual staff to clean this mess." Margaret, my sister-in-law, smirked as she pulled out her phone. "She'd been waiting all evening for me to mess up." "Honestly, brother," she said to my husband Jack, who stood uncomfortably in the corner, "couldn't you have found someone more suitable? At least someone who knows how to hold a champagne glass properly?" I caught Jack's eye, silently pleading with him to stand up for me. We'd been married for 6 months, and in all that time, he'd never once defended me against his family's cruel remarks. He looked away, suddenly very interested in his shoes. What none of them knew was that I wasn't just Sarah Chen, the supposedly poor girl from a modest background who'd trapped their precious Jack into marriage. I was Sarah Chen Wam, CEO of Phoenix Technologies, one of the largest tech companies in Asia. My net worth was more than their entire family fortune combined. But they didn't know that. Jack didn't know that. Nobody in this room knew that except me. I'd met Jack at a coffee shop near my office, dressed in my usual casual clothes. The ones I wore when I wanted to escape the pressure of being a 29-year-old CEO running a multi-billion-dollar company. He was charming, genuine, and seemed different from the wealth-obsessed men who usually pursued me. When he proposed 3 months later, I decided to keep my identity secret a little longer. I wanted to be loved for who I was, not what I owned. I told him I worked as a mid-level manager at a small tech firm, and he never questioned it. But now, standing in his parents' mansion, watching his family treat me like dirt, I wondered if I'd made a mistake. "Sarah," Victoria's sharp voice cut through my thoughts. "Since you're already playing waitress, make yourself useful and serve drinks to our guests. The real staff is busy preparing for the main event." The main event was Victoria's annual charity gala, her chance to show off her wealth and social connections to Silicon Valley's elite. Little did she know that most of these elite were my business associates. "Of course, Mother Victoria," I said sweetly, picking up a silver tray of champagne flutes. As I moved through the crowd, I could hear Margaret's stage whisper, "Can you believe she actually agreed? So desperate to prove she belongs here." I was halfway through the room when I heard familiar voices at the entrance. My heart skipped a beat as I recognized them. My entire board of directors, right on schedule. "Mrs. Montgomery." Thomas John, my CFO, called out cheerfully as he entered. "I didn't expect to see you at Victoria's." His voice trailed off as he took in my appearance, serving drinks, wearing the simple blue dress that Victoria had called department store trash earlier. "Sarah?" Jack appeared beside me, confusion written all over his face. "Why did he call you Mrs. Montgomery?" Before I could answer, more board members entered. Their faces shifted from joy to shock as they saw me holding the serving tray. Behind them came the final guest, Richard Montgomery himself, my late father's best friend and our company's chairman. "Sarah, my dear," Richard's booming voice filled the room. "What on earth are you doing serving drinks at your own event?" The crystal glasses on my tray clinked as the room went silent. Victoria's face had lost all color. Margaret's mouth hung open unattractively. Your event?" Jack stammered. I carefully set down the tray and straightened my posture, the CEO posture I've been hiding for 6 months. "Yes, Jack, my event. You see, Phoenix Technologies bought this mansion last week, along with the entire street actually. We're planning a new tech campus." I turned to Victoria, whose face had turned an interesting shade of green. "I'm afraid you'll need to find a new venue for your charity gala next year, Mother Victoria. This place will be under construction." The silence that followed was deafening, but this was just the beginning of what I had planned for them. After all, it spent 6 months showing me exactly who they were, and now it was my turn to return the favor. "Richard," I said, my voice carrying the authority I'd hidden for so long, Shall we begin the real celebration? I believe we have some contracts to sign. As my board members moved to surround me, I caught a glimpse of Jack's face, a mixture of shock, confusion, and something else. Fear, perhaps. He was probably realizing that the charity case he failed to defend was about to become his boss. But that story would have to wait. Right now, I had a tech campus to build, and a family to teach about the true meaning of class. The next hour was deliciously chaotic. Victoria kept opening and closing her mouth like a fish out of water, while Margaret had retreated to a corner, furiously Googling my name on her phone. I could see the exact moment she found the Forbes article about me, Sarah Chen Wang, the billion-dollar tech princess, because she dropped her phone into her champagne glass. I believe Richard said, placing a thick folder on the mahogany dining table, "We should discuss the terms of the property acquisition." He was clearly enjoying this as much as I was. After all, he'd watched me grow up, had seen me take over my father's company at 25 and triple its value in just 4 years. Property acquisition. Victoria finally found her voice. But this is our home. We've lived here for 30 years. 28 years, I corrected her smoothly. And you've been renting for the last 5, ever since the bank foreclosure. Your landlord was quite happy to sell to Phoenix Technologies. I smiled, remembering the negotiation, especially at 3 times the market value. Jack stepped forward, his face a storm of emotions. "Sarah, we need to talk. In private." "Now you want to talk." I raised an eyebrow. "After 6 months of watching your family treat me like something they scraped off their shoes." The room grew even quieter, if that was possible. "But you're right, dear husband. We should talk." I led him to his father's study, soon to be my new regional office. As soon as the door closed, he exploded. "How could you lie to me? All this time, pretending to be poor?" I finished for him. "Unworthy of your precious family name. Tell me, Jack, how would you have treated me if you'd known who I really was? Would you have defended me against your family's abuse, or would you just have pursued me for my money instead of treating me like your dirty little secret?" He flinched. "I never." "You never what?" "Never stood up for me, never told your mother to stop treating me like a servant, never corrected your sister when she accidentally spilled wine on my dress or told her country club friends I was probably a gold digger?" I was trying to keep the peace. "No," I said quietly, "you were being a coward. And now you're angry because you realize you've been treating the wrong person like they were beneath you." A knock at the door interrupted us. Margaret burst in, her face flushed with excitement. "Jack, do you know who she is? She's worth billions. This is perfect. We can—" "Stop." My voice cut through her babbling like a knife. "Let me make something very clear. There is no we. As of tomorrow morning, Phoenix Technologies owns this property. You have 30 days to vacate." But where will we go?" Victoria had appeared behind Margaret, her earlier disdain replaced by panic. "This is our home. Perhaps you should have thought of that before you made your son's wife serve drinks at her own party." Richard's voice came from behind them. He entered the study, followed by my board members. "Sarah, the contracts are ready." I turned to Jack, who was watching me with a mixture of anger and dawning comprehension. "I'll have my lawyers contact you about the divorce settlement tomorrow." "Divorce?" Margaret shrieked. "Jack, you can't divorce her. She's rich." I couldn't help but laugh. "Oh, now you want him to stay married to me? What happened to gold digger and charity case?" Victoria stepped forward, her face a mask of desperation. "Sarah, dear, surely we can work this out. We're family." "Family?" I picked up a pen from the desk. "Let me tell you about family. 6 months ago, when I married Jack, I hoped to find a real family. Instead, I found people so obsessed with status and money that they couldn't see the person standing right in front of them." I signed the contract with a flourish. You know what the saddest part is? If you had just been kind, if you had treated me like a human being instead of an intruder, I would have shared everything with you. The money, the connections, all of it. But you showed me exactly who you are. And now? Jack's voice was barely a whisper. "And now you get to experience what it's like to have nothing but your name." Although I smiled sweetly at Victoria, I hear the Montgomery name isn't worth much these days, especially since Phoenix Technologies just acquired the majority shares in Montgomery Industries this morning. Victoria fainted. Actually fainted, like a Victorian lady with a case of the vapors. Margaret caught her before she hit the ground, while Jack stared at me in horror. "You bought my father's company." "Actually, your father sold it to me. Quite eagerly, I might add. Something about needing to cover his gambling debts before they became public knowledge." I turned to Richard. "Make sure the press release goes out first thing tomorrow, and have security here in the morning to begin the property assessment." As I walked out of the study, I heard Margaret's wail, "But where will we live?" I paused at the door. "I hear there are some lovely department stores nearby, since you're so fond of them." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The divorce was quick and clean. Jack was too shocked and humiliated to contest anything. Victoria and Margaret tried to save face in their social circle, but it's hard to maintain an air of superiority when you're moving from a mansion to a 3-bedroom apartment. As for me, I turned their precious family mansion into something they would have hated, a tech incubator for underprivileged youth. The same kind of people they'd looked down on for so long would now be learning, growing, and building their futures in the halls where Victoria once held her charity galas. 6 months after that fateful party, I sat in my office, formerly the grand ballroom where I'd been made to serve drinks, reviewing applications for our scholarship program. A familiar name caught my eye. Emily Montgomery, Jack's younger cousin. The girl's essay was touching. She wrote about growing up in the shadow of her wealthy relatives, never quite fitting in because her single mother couldn't afford their lifestyle. She dreamed of becoming a software engineer, but couldn't afford college. I approved her application immediately, because that's the thing about real class. It has nothing to do with money or mansions or crystal champagne glasses. It's about how you treat people, especially when you think they have nothing to offer you. I learned that lesson from my father, who built this company from nothing. Victoria and her family learned it the hard way. And Emily? She's now one of our top coding students, and she brings coffee to our weekly mentoring sessions. Not because she has to, but because she wants to. In the end, I got something far better than revenge. I got to show them exactly what they'd thrown away. Not my money or my company, but the chance to be part of something bigger than their small, superficial world. Sometimes I wear that department store trash blue dress to board meetings, just because I can. After all, it's not about the price tag, it's about the person wearing it. And I wear it like a CEO.